The land that became the United States was home to Native American peoples for thousands of years. They arrived long ago across a land bridge from Asia during the Ice Age. They built many different cultures. Some made big earth mounds for ceremonies. Others built stone villages in the southwest. In the northeast, the Iroquois nations formed a strong confederacy with a democratic system. In 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed from Spain and reached the Americas. This opened the way for European exploration and settlement. Spanish, French, Dutch, and English people came. They brought diseases that killed most Native Americans. Europeans took land and resources. They started colonies. The English built Jamestown in 1607. Later, more colonies grew along the East Coast. Fur trade caused wars between tribes and Europeans. The slave trade from Africa brought millions of enslaved people to work on plantations. In the 1700s, the 13 English colonies wanted freedom from heavy taxes. Protests led to the Boston Tea Party. Then war began in 1775. George Washington led the American Army. In 1776, the Declaration of Independence was signed. After hard fighting with help from France, the Americans won. The Treaty of Paris in 1783 made the United States a free country. A new constitution was written in 1787. George Washington became the first president. The young nation grew westward. Louisiana Purchase in 1803 doubled its size. Lewis and Clark explored the new lands. War with Britain in 1812 ended without big changes. Slavery divided the country. Northern states ended slavery. Southern states kept it for cotton farms. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected president. Southern states left the Union and formed the Confederacy. Civil War started in 1861. It was the bloodiest war in American history. Battles like Gettysburg turned the fight. Lincoln freed slaves in rebel states with the Emancipation Proclamation. The North won in 1865. Lincoln was killed soon after. Slavery ended with the 13th Amendment. The country rebuilt and grew fast with industry. In 1898 war with Spain brought new lands like Puerto Rico and Philippines. In World War I, the U.S. joined in 1917 and helped win. The 1920s were a time of good economy, jazz, and new culture. Then the Great Depression hit hard in the 1930s. In 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. The U.S. entered World War II. American forces fought in Europe and Pacific. The war ended in 1945 after atomic bombs on Japan. After the war, the Cold War began with the Soviet Union. Space race led to moon landing in 1969. Civil rights movement led by Martin Luther King won equal rights for African Americans. On September 11th, 2001 terrorists attacked New York and Washington. It changed the country and started wars against terror. September 11th attacks. Wikipedia. The land that became the United States was home to Native American peoples for thousands of years. Long before any Europeans arrived, these early inhabitants crossed a land bridge from Asia during the last ice age. When sea levels were low enough to connect the continents, they were hunter-gatherers who followed animals and gathered plants for survival. As the ice melted and the bridge disappeared, they spread across the vast landscape, adapting to different environments from dense forests to open plains and arid deserts. Over time, they developed rich and diverse cultures with unique languages, traditions, and ways of life. In the Mississippi River Valley, one of the most advanced societies emerged, known as the Mississippian culture. They built impressive cities with massive earthen mounds that served as platforms for temples, homes, and ceremonial sites. The largest of these was Cahokia, a bustling metropolis with a population rivaling that of contemporary European cities where people traded, Goods farmed maize and held elaborate rituals that connected them to their spiritual world. In the southwest, the Pueblo peoples constructed multi-story adobe and stone dwellings like cliff palaces that blended seamlessly with the rugged canyons, providing protection from enemies and the harsh sun. These communities were skilled in irrigation, farming, pottery, and weaving, creating vibrant societies that thrived in harmony with nature. Further north, in the northeast woodlands, the Iroquois Confederacy, also called the Haudenosaunee, formed a powerful alliance of 5 nations, later 6, including the Mohawk Oneida, established a representative government where chiefs were chosen by clan mothers and decisions were made through consensus, influencing later ideas of governance, including aspects of the U.S. Constitution. These native societies had deep connections to the land, viewing it as sacred and living sustainably for generations, but their world would change forever with the arrival of outsiders from across the ocean. In the year 1492, a Genoese explorer named Christopher Columbus set sail from Spain under the patronage of Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, hoping to find a western route to Asia's riches. Instead, he landed in the Bahamas, mistaking it for the Indies. His voyages sparked a wave of European exploration and conquest that would reshape the world. Columbus made 4 trips in total, claiming lands for Spain and encountering indigenous peoples whom he treated harshly, exploiting them for gold and labor. His actions included enslaving natives and committing atrocities that led to his eventual arrest and fall from grace. But the real killer was not violence alone. European diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza, to which Native Americans had no immunity, swept through populations, decimating up to 90% of them in some areas. This tragic exchange, known as the Columbian Exchange, also brought new crops, animals, and technologies in both directions, forever altering global diets and economies. Following Columbus, other explorers ventured forth. The Spanish conquered vast empires in Mexico and Peru, toppling the Aztecs under Hernán Cortés, and the Incas under Francisco Pizarro, amassing fortunes in gold and silver that fueled Europe's rise. The Portuguese focused on Brazil, while the French, drawn by the lucrative fur trade, established outposts along the St. Lawrence River. Netherlands centered on New Amsterdam, which would become New York. Their forts facilitated commerce in beaver pelts, a fashion staple in Europe. Meanwhile, the English, lagging at first, established their first permanent colony at Jamestown, Virginia in 1607, facing starvation, disease, and conflicts with the Powhatan tribe, but surviving through tobacco cultivation, which became a cash crop, demanding more labor and leading to the importation of indentured servants and eventually enslaved Africans. The transatlantic slave trade formed a brutal triangle where European goods were traded for African captives who endured horrific Middle Passage voyages, crammed into ships under inhuman conditions to labor on plantations in the Americas. This system enriched colonial powers, but at immense human cost, as millions were uprooted and families torn apart. Back in North America, rivalries between European powers spilled over into conflicts often involving native allies. The Beaver Wars pitted the Iroquois, armed by the Dutch and English, against French allied tribes like the Huron in a struggle for fur trade dominance, leading to decades of raids and bloodshed that reshaped tribal territories. By the mid-1700s, tensions escalated between Britain and France over the Ohio Valley, culminating in the French and Indian War, part of the global 7 Years' War. Young George Washington gained experience in this conflict, which ended with British victory in 1763, granting them vast territories, but also massive debts. To recoup these costs, Britain imposed taxes on the colonies, starting with the Sugar Act and Stamp Act, infuriating colonists who argued no taxation without representation in Parliament. Protests, boycotts, and riots followed, including the infamous Boston Massacre in 1770, where British troops fired on a crowd, killing 5, and the Boston, sparking unity among the colonies. In 1770, for the First Continental Congress convened in Philadelphia to coordinate resistance, and by April 1775, open war erupted at Lexington and Concord, where Minutemen farmers ready in a minute clashed with British Redcoats. Paul Revere's midnight ride warned of the advance. The Second Continental Congress formed the Continental Army, appointing George Washington as commander-in-chief. Virginia planter with military savvy, the Declaration of Independence, drafted mainly by Thomas Jefferson, was adopted. On July 4th, 1776, proclaiming all men are created equal and listing grievances against King George III. The war was grueling, with early defeats like the loss of New York, but key victories at Saratoga in 1777 convinced France to ally openly, providing troops, ships, and funds under leaders like Marquis de Lafayette. The tide turned to Yorktown in 1781, where British General Cornwallis surrendered, trapped by American and French forces. The Treaty of Paris in 1783 recognized American independence, extending borders to the Mississippi River, but the new nation faced challenges under the weak Articles of Confederation, leading to the Constitutional Convention in 1787, where delegates like James Madison crafted a stronger federal government with checks and balances. Ratified in 1788, with the Bill of Rights added in 1791 to protect freedoms like speech, religion, and assembly. George Washington was unanimously elected first president, setting precedents like a two-term limit. The early republic expanded rapidly, driven by manifest destiny, the belief in divine right to spread across the continent. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 from France under President Thomas Jefferson doubled the species and paving the way for settlers. The War of 1812 against Britain over trade rights and impressment ended in stalemate, but boosted nationalism with battles like New Orleans, where Andrew Jackson triumphed. The British even burned the White House, but the young Navy shone under heroes like Oliver Hazard Perry. Native Americans suffered greatly with forced removals under Jackson's Indian Removal Act of 1830, leading to the Trail of Tears, where thousands of Cherokee died marching to Oklahoma amid disease and starvation. Westward expansion continued with Texas independence from Mexico in 1836 after the Alamo Siege, and annexation in 1845, sparking the Mexican-American War under President James Polk, ending in 1848 with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo ceding California, New Mexico, and more. The California Gold Rush of 1849 drew hundreds of thousands in a frenzy of fortune-seeking, transforming San Francisco from a tiny village to a booming city, but also displacing natives and causing environmental havoc. Slavery's shadow loomed large, dividing the nation economically and morally. The industrialized North opposed it, while the agrarian South depended on it for cotton. King of exports, compromises like the Missouri Compromise of 1820 tried to balance slave and free states, but tensions boiled with the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1850 for allowing popular sovereignty, leading to bleeding Kansas violence. Abraham Lincoln's election in 1860 as a Republican opposed to slavery's expansion prompted South Carolina and 10 other states to secede, forming the Confederacy under Jefferson Davis. The Civil War began with the bombardment of Fort Sumter in 1861, the bloodiest conflict in U.S. history, with over 600,000 dead. Early Confederate Emancipation Proclamation freeing slaves in rebel states. Gettysburg in 1863, halting Lee's northern invasion and Sherman's march to the sea, devastating the South. Ulysses S. Grant's relentless campaigns forced Lee's surrender at Appomattox in 1865. Lincoln assassinated days later by John Wilkes Booth. Reconstruction aimed to rebuild and integrate freed slaves, with amendments 13 abolishing slavery, 14 granting citizenship, and 15 voting rights for black men, but Jim Crow law soon enforced segregation and disenfranchisement. Post-war America industrialized rapidly, with inventions like the telephone by Alexander Graham Bell and electric light by Thomas Edison fueling growth. The Gilded Age saw tycoons like John D. Rockefeller in oil and Andrew Carnegie in steel amassing fortunes amid labor strikes. and inequality immigration surged from Europe and Asia, building cities like New York with landmarks like the Statue of Liberty in 1898. The Spanish-American War over Cuba's independence made the U.S. a global power, acquiring Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines under Theodore Roosevelt's Big Stick policy. He also oversaw the Panama Canal's construction in 1914, linking oceans for trade. World War I erupted in Europe in 1914, with the U.S. staying neutral until German U-boat attacks, and the Zimmermann Telegram in 1917 prompting entry under President Woodrow Wilson. American doughboys helped turn the tide, leading to Armistice in 1918 and Wilson's 14 points influencing the Treaty of Versailles, though the U.S. rejected. The League of Nations, the Roaring Twenties, brought prosperity. Jazz flappers, prohibition bootleggers like Al Capone, women's suffrage with the 19th Amendment, and cultural icons like Babe Ruth. Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal in 1933 introduced relief, recovery, and reform with programs like Social Security and the WPA, building infrastructure, pulling the nation from despair. But full recovery came with World War II after Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor, December 7, 1941, a day that will live in infamy, as FDR said the U.S. mobilized fighting on two fronts in Europe. D-Day, Normandy invasion in 1944 liberated France from Nazis, while in the Pacific island hopping campaigns like Iwo Jima led to victory. The Manhattan Project developed atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, forcing Japan's surrender, but killing over 200,000 civilians. The wars and ushered in the Cold War, with the Soviet Union dividing Europe. With the Iron Curtain, the U.S. led NATO, while Soviets formed the Warsaw Pact. Proxy conflicts like the Korean War 1950 to 1953 and Vietnam War 1960s to 1970s drained resources. The space race saw the U.S. land on the moon with Apollo 11 in 1969. Neil Armstrong's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Domestically, the civil rights movement gained momentum with Rosa Parks' bus boycott in 1955, Martin Luther King Jr.'s nonviolent protests, including the March on Washington in 1963, where he delivered his I Have a Dream speech, leading to the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and Voting Rights Act of 1965, ending legal segregation, though struggles persist. The late 20th century saw Watergate scandal forcing Richard Nixon's resignation in 1974, economic challenges, and the end of the Cold War with the Berlin Wall's fall in 1989. Under Ronald Reagan's policies, the 1990s brought prosperity under Bill Clinton with tech boom and NAFTA, but terrorism emerged with the 1993 World Trade Nation, but led to wars in Afghanistan and Iraq under George W. Bush. Reshaping foreign policy, the 2008 financial crisis caused recession, addressed by Barack Obama's stimulus and healthcare reform. The first African-American president, symbolizing progress. Donald Trump's 2016 election emphasized America first with trade wars and immigration walls, while Joe Biden in 2020 focused on pandemic recovery and climate. Today, in 2026, the United States remains a superpower with the world's largest economy. Advanced technology like AI and space exploration via NASA and private firms like SpaceX, a military presence globally, and cultural influence through Hollywood and music, yet it faces challenges like political division, inequality, climate change, and global competition. Its history, a tapestry of triumph, tragedy, resilience, and reinvention, continues to evolve, engaging generations. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you found it helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Liberty Legends for more. Hit that like button to support the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.